I was folding laundry on a Wednesday afternoon when it happened. Just a normal day. My fiancée Rachel was at work, my phone was charging in the kitchen, and there was a gentle breeze slipping through the open window, carrying the smell of cut grass. The news was playing in the background, some mayoral scandal I wasn't paying attention to, and I had just matched 2 socks when the screen on my phone lit up with a call from a blocked number. I ignored it. Then it rang again, and again. On the 4th call, I picked up, not out of curiosity but annoyance. I didn't say anything, just pressed it to my ear, expecting a telemarketer or maybe a robocall. But I heard breathing, slow, steady, and intentional. Then a voice said, "It's me." I didn't recognize it at first. There was no context, just 2 words, spoken with the eerie calm of someone who had rehearsed them for years. I said nothing. My chest felt like it had been suddenly vacuum-sealed. The laundry slipped out of my hands. I'm outside. I walked to the window and looked out, and she was there, standing on the sidewalk like she'd just walked out of a dream that had curdled into a nightmare. Same posture, same hair, same tilt of her head, but older, worn around the eyes in a way that hadn't been there 7 years ago. 7 years. Not months. Not a year or 2. 7. My wife had been missing for 7 years. She disappeared without a trace on a trip to California. One day she was there, texting me pictures of a lake, and the next silence. No signal.
No answers.
Her car was found abandoned on a back road. No note.
No witnesses. No suspects.
After 2 years of grieving, court hearings, and hollow birthdays, she was declared legally dead. And now she was standing on my street, holding a child by the hand. I opened the door slowly, not sure whether to scream or fall to my knees. "I thought you were dead," I said. Came out like a whisper I didn't mean to say out loud. "I was supposed to be," she replied, not looking at me, but at the child beside her. He was staring at my car like he was more interested in the color of the paint than the man who was supposed to be his father. "This is Aaron," she said. I couldn't speak. I just stared. The kid looked 7, maybe a little younger, blonde like I was at that age, but there was something off in his expression, like he already knew this was going to be a mess. "He's yours," she said, her voice sharper now. "Don't bother calculating. I know you will, but you were the last." "No," I said instantly, my brain clicking into place. "We weren't. We hadn't even." "Don't you dare," she cut in. Her eyes locked onto mine, cold and oddly satisfied, as if this confrontation was something she'd been fantasizing about. "Don't act like you didn't want me to vanish. Don't act like you didn't enjoy your pity party." The words hit harder than they should have. Not because they were true, they weren't, but because they came so fast, so venomously. This wasn't a woman happy to be home. This was a storm wrapped in skin, waiting for an opening to break something. "Where have you been?" I asked, taking a step forward. "What the hell happened to you?" "That doesn't matter," she said. "What matters is you moved on. So quickly, so publicly. All those little moving forward posts on Facebook. The sympathy parade. But guess what? I didn't die. I survived. And now you've got a choice to make. What do you want?" She smiled. Finally. But it wasn't soft. It was the kind of smile you'd expect from someone who knows they're about to watch a tower collapse. "I want you to break off your engagement," she said. "Walk away from Rachel, or I go to the press. I tell them everything. I ruin you." "Ruin me with what?" Her grin didn't falter. "With the truth, Jason. Or at least my version of it. Doesn't matter if it's accurate. You know how the world works now." She turned and walked back to her car with the kid in tow like she hadn't just dropped a grenade in the middle of my life.
No who. No tears. No explanation.
Just that final, poisoned line she threw over her shoulder before closing the car door. "You've got until Saturday." Then she was gone. Again. Only this time, she left behind something worse than silence. She left behind a countdown. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, just watching the digital clock on the stove blink past every slow minute. Rachel came home late from a business dinner, kissed me on the head, noticed the untouched dinner on the stove, and asked what was wrong. I told her I wasn't feeling well. Not a lie. Not the truth either. But I couldn't say the words out loud yet. Not until I understood what the hell I was even dealing with. I kept hearing her voice. Not just her threats, but the calmness in her delivery. That unnatural composure. Like she'd practiced it all in front of a mirror for months. She didn't stumble once. Didn't hesitate. Like this was her new reality, and I was the one living in denial. The next morning, I called out of work and drove across town to a friend of mine, Marcus, who works in legal affairs. Not to get a lawyer. Not yet. I just wanted to know what kind of fire I was sitting on. She was declared legally dead, right? Marcus asked, tapping away on his laptop. 2 years after she vanished. I nodded. Paperwork, court hearings, obituary, the works. And now she's back with a kid? I nodded again. Well, he said, rubbing his chin. That's uncharted territory, man. If she's proven alive, that changes everything. Technically, you're still married. The declaration of death nullifies a lot, but it doesn't automatically dissolve the marriage unless you file a divorce after she's declared dead. Did you?
No.
I didn't think I had to. You didn't. But now, if she really is alive, and she wants something, she can start throwing her weight around. That word stuck with me. Wait, because that's what she carried when she looked at me. Not grief. Not confusion. Wait, like she had leverage. Like she wanted this to be messy. I left Marcus's office feeling worse than when I came in. I didn't know where she was staying. I didn't have a phone number. Just that moment on my lawn, and the fire she left behind. So I made a decision. I called her bluff. I went to Rachel that night and told her everything. And the expression on Rachel's face as I spoke, as I walked her through every painful, chaotic detail, was something I'll never forget. She didn't interrupt. She didn't cry. She just stared. Like a part of her was watching her life burn down and couldn't look away. She's blackmailing you? Rachel asked finally. She says she'll tell the media. She'll twist the narrative. Make it look like I faked grief. Like I had something to do with her disappearance. But that's insane. Yeah, I said. But she's back. And insanity doesn't need to be true to be dangerous. Rachel stood up and paced. Her hand went through her hair a dozen times, her brain clearly sprinting ahead of her mouth. She can't do this, she said. She won't. This is bluffing. It's got to be. I wish I believed that, I told her. We spent hours trying to figure out what the hell her angle was. If it was money, she didn't ask for any. If it was the kid, she didn't even introduce him properly. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She just demanded. And then, the next day, an envelope appeared on my front porch. No return address. Just my name written in handwriting I knew too well. Inside were 3 things. A printed email thread between me and Rachel from 6 months ago, back when I proposed to her. A photo of Rachel leaving her office, clearly taken without her knowing. A 1-line note that read, "Next time I send something, it goes to her boss." It was her way of showing me that this wasn't idle. She'd been watching, listening, collecting. She didn't just want to reappear. She wanted control. That's when I knew. This wasn't a woman returning to her life. This was a woman invading it that I spent the next 48 hours feeling like I was living inside a bomb that hadn't decided which second to explode. I kept waiting for a knock on the door, a news van on the lawn, a call from Rachel telling me she'd lost her job. But none of that came. Instead, she came back. Not to the house, no. That would have been too simple. She found me at the cafe I go to every Thursday morning. She walked in like she'd been doing it for years, like nothing had ever happened, like she hadn't shattered my world and buried the pieces for fun. She sat down across from me with no warning, wearing sunglasses like she was hiding from a past she'd just weaponized. "I told you Saturday," she said, setting a napkin down on the table like we were about to order tea. "You're early," I replied, trying not to let the shaking in my hand show. "You're dragging your feet." "Dragging my life," I corrected her. She tilted her head, amused. "Your life? The one you rebuilt over my grave." "You vanished," I said. "You left me in pieces. What was I supposed to do? Wait forever?" She leaned in, removed her sunglasses, and said, "You were supposed to not forget who you belonged to." That's when I realized. This wasn't about love, or loss, or closure. This was possession. She wasn't here because she missed me. She was here because I'd moved on without her, and that bruised whatever twisted pride she'd been nursing in her hidden little pocket of the world. I want a DNA test, I said flat. I'm not signing over to anything without proof. Her smile didn't even twitch. Of course, you'll find out he's yours. I made sure of it. I froze. Made sure of it? What does that mean? It means you're going to be a father, whether you like it or not, she said. And the sooner you let go of your little step-forward engagement, the cleaner this gets. I felt something hardening in my chest. Not fear, not shock, a kind of slow, boiling clarity. You're lying, I said. About something, maybe everything. You've been watching me, stalking Rachel, collecting things to hurt me with. But you're not acting like a mother. You're acting like a lunatic with a script. Her expression flickered, just for a second. And I knew I'd hit something. She stood abruptly and dropped a folder on the table. You have until Saturday to announce the breakup, she said. Make it believable. Cry if you have to. Tell her it's not her, it's you. But make it public. Or I go nuclear. What's in the folder? I asked. Insurance, she said. Proof that I'm not bluffing. Things Rachel wouldn't want her family or her company to see. And then, as casually as someone saying goodbye at brunch, she walked away. I opened the folder, and my stomach turned. Inside were pages of surveillance, screenshots of private texts,
Audio transcripts.
notes on our habits, our routines, Rachel's passwords, her LinkedIn messages, even her travel history from her company portal. None of it illegal. Not exactly, but all of it weaponized. And then, stapled to the back, a single sheet with 4 words printed in bold. You don't know her. At first I thought it was a threat. Then I realized it was something worse. A suggestion. I sat in my car outside the cafe for over an hour. The folder open on the passenger seat like a confession from a ghost. Every page a whisper, every image a trap. Her handwriting was everywhere. The same cursive she'd used to leave me love notes once. Now it was a scalpel carving into the shell of the life I'd tried to rebuild. You don't know her. I couldn't stop staring at that line. The words weren't underlined. No dramatic red ink. Just plain black type, printed like an invoice. And yet it rattled something deep in me. Because part of me, a small, almost ashamed part, wondered if she was right. That night I watched Rachel sleep. Not in the creepy horror movie way. I just observed the rhythm of her breath. The way she curled into the blanket, arms wrapped around the pillow like it was armor. We'd been together for 3 years. And yet I couldn't shake this awful doubt. What if there were parts of her I never saw? What if Melissa knew something I didn't? By the next morning, I was done waiting. I took the folder to Rachel. She was in the middle of a Zoom call. But when she saw my face, she closed her laptop without a word. I handed her the folder.
No explanation.
She read in silence. Flip, flip, flip. When she got to the surveillance images, her eyes narrowed. Her hands tightened. By the time she reached the note, her expression had gone blank. She's completely unhinged, she said finally, her voice even. I don't know where she's getting this stuff. But this is all twisted. You recognize it, though? Yes, these are real messages. But she's slicing them out of context. Can she hurt you with this? Professionally? Maybe. Temporarily? Personally?
No.
I studied her for a long moment. Then why do I feel like she's winning? Rachel looked up, and for the first time I saw fear. Not fear of losing me. Fear of something else. She showed up at my office, Rachel said. I blinked. What? 2 weeks ago. Said she was a private investigator. Told the receptionist she was doing background research. I thought it was weird, but I didn't connect the dots. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know what it meant, she said. And I didn't want to scare you. She's not scared of anything, I said. And that's the part that scares me. Rachel set the folder down. We need help. I already talked to Marcus. Legally, it's a mess. If she's alive and the kid is mine, then she has rights. But if she's lying, Rachel didn't let me finish. Then we prove it. That's when we decided we would play along. For now, make her believe we were breaking apart. Feed her a story. Let her gloat, while we dug into her life instead. Because Melissa may have come back from the dead. But she came back with secrets too. And if she thought she was the only one who could lie, she was about to find out how wrong she was. The game began that weekend. Rachel and I staged the breakup, publicly, painfully, and with the kind of messy emotional flair that would pass every test Melissa had likely devised. We went to dinner at a busy restaurant on Saturday, argued loud enough for witnesses, stormed out separately, and made sure a few strategically placed mutual friends caught wind of the scene. Then, on Sunday morning, I changed my relationship status online to single. Within 30 minutes, Melissa texted me, "Good. I knew you'd make the right choice. Come see your son." She included an address, a suburban rental house on the edge of town. I recognized the neighborhood, bland, too quiet, the kind of place people disappear into and sometimes never come out of. I told Rachel everything. I wasn't doing this in secret. We agreed I'd go alone, play along, keep her talking. Meanwhile, Rachel would start digging. Phone traces, property records, any financial trail we could follow. Melissa wanted to act like a magician, but every trick leaves behind fingerprints. When I arrived at the house, she opened the door before I even knocked. The boy was sitting on the floor inside, building something with Legos. He didn't look up. Melissa gestured for me to come in with all the casual warmth of a snake opening its mouth. "He's shy," she said, "but he's smart. Gifted, actually. The kind of kid who remembers everything." I looked at the boy. He had my eyes. I didn't want to admit it, but I saw it instantly. That exact, unsettling shade of gray-blue that had freaked out my kindergarten teacher. "You said he's mine," I said. "Prove it." She smiled and handed me a sealed envelope. "I already ran the test," she said. "Used a toothbrush you left behind. He's yours."
Ist hier?
"You took something from my old place? You don't get to complain about how I came back," she said. "You just get to be glad I did." I opened the envelope. It was a paternity test. The name matched, the date too, but something felt off. "You could have forged this," I said. She tilted her head. "Why would I bother? You know it's true. You just don't want it to be." I studied her. There was no maternal affection in her tone. No warmth when she talked about the boy. He wasn't a child to her, he was leverage. A pawn. And she was already 10 moves into the game. "What do you want from me, really?" I asked. She turned away, walked to the boy, and smoothed his hair like someone mimicking the motion of a mother. Then she faced me again, eyes narrowed. "I want the house. I want you to sign over the life insurance you collected when I was declared dead. And I want your name attached to this kid's paperwork.
No hiding. No denials.
No half measures. That's blackmail." She shrugged. "It's family."
No.
"It's extortion." Semantics. I clenched my fists. Why now? Why not 5 years ago? Why not 3? Why wait until I'm engaged again? She stepped closer, and for a second, I saw something real flicker through her eyes. Not grief, not remorse, just naked, ugly resentment. "Because you were supposed to drown in losing me, not build from it. You're not supposed to be happy without me. That's not how this was supposed to go." It hit me like a thunderclap. She hadn't come back to reclaim her life. She came back to destroy the one I made in her absence. And I wasn't going to let her win. The next morning, Rachel and I sat in our garage with the windows up and the doors closed. Not to suffocate, but to shield ourselves from the outside world. The neighbors thought we were moving. We let them. Boxes everywhere, some filled, most fake. It was all part of the performance. I told her everything from my visit with Melissa. Every line, every gesture, every subtle threat behind the threats. Rachel listened, her eyes scanning for the next move, like she was planning a war map in her head. "She wants the house, the insurance money, and public acknowledgement," I said. "She doesn't care about the kid." "Not really." Rachel tapped her fingers against the armrest. "So we make her think she's getting all of it." "I sign everything over?" "No," she said. "You pretend to. We give her papers that look real. Documents that will pass a glance, maybe even a lawyer's. But we keep the originals and we wire everything through a proxy." It was Rachel's idea to bring in someone from her side. A cybersecurity contact she'd met during a corporate breach last year. He owed her a favor. And by Tuesday night, we had our own silent hunter tracking every digital move Melissa made. VPNs, burner accounts, false logins. All of it started to unravel. And that's when the first piece of the puzzle came loose. Melissa didn't rent the house she was in. It was owned, under a shell company tied to a private bank account opened just 4 months ago. The payments came from an IP address out of New Mexico. The name attached to the transfers? Not Melissa's, not even close. It was a woman named Hannah Bellamy, and she was dead. Another fake identity? I asked. Rachel shook her head.
No.
I think Melissa's been using real people, people she knew. People who wouldn't miss her borrowing their names because they're already 6 feet under. How do you even know that name? Rachel pulled up an obituary. She was my freshman roommate in college. Died in a car crash senior year. Nobody outside our circle would know to look for that name.
Is there here?
You think she's targeting you? I think she's been following me longer than she's been following you. It was like falling through ice. Suddenly, none of this was about a failed marriage or a long-lost child. Melissa had been shadowing Rachel for years. Long before she returned. Maybe even before she vanished. This wasn't random, I said. She didn't just show up to ruin my life. She chose you. Rachel nodded, her face stone-cold now. Because she's not trying to take back her husband. She's trying to erase me. The realization hit hard. Melissa wasn't just back for revenge. She was playing a long con. A layered assault that had begun the moment she walked into Rachel's office pretending to be someone else. And if we didn't find out her endgame soon, this wouldn't just cost us a relationship. It would cost us our identities. Then we stop playing defense, I said. We take the fight to her. Rachel nodded once. We burn her game to the ground. The first strike was silent. While Melissa thought we were crumbling, while she watched from a distance, likely waiting for the official statement of our breakup to ripple through social media. Rachel's contact breached her burner accounts. Not just one. All of them. Emails, storage folders, even draft messages. She was meticulous, I'll give her that. But not meticulous enough. In one of the cloud drives, buried beneath tax forms and clipped articles about wrongful death cases, was a folder labeled Echo. Inside it, images. Dozens of them. Surveillance photos of me, of Rachel, of our families, of places we visited. Even our cabin in Vermont, the one we'd never posted online. Notes were attached to every photo, time-stamped, location tagged, and annotated in Melissa's handwriting. But the images weren't just of us. They included 3 other couples, all seemingly unconnected. And yet, in every set of photos, there was one repeating element, the same woman appearing somewhere in the background. Always different hairstyles, different clothes, but the posture, the angle, the way she never looked directly into the camera. Unmistakably the same person. Melissa. She hadn't just stalked me. She'd stalked others. Do you think she's done this before? I asked. Rachel was already scanning the metadata. I think she's been perfecting it. One couple in the photos stood out. A man and a woman in Boston. Married, no kids, high-profile tech careers. 6 months ago, the woman had a nervous breakdown and vanished. The man left his company days later. We cross-checked the details. And then it got worse. Melissa had messaged him. Not from her name, of course. From another alias, posing as someone who could help rebuild after betrayal. And just like that, a pattern emerged. She'd been inserting herself into fractured relationships. Feeding them poison. Collecting fallout like trophies. She's an emotional arsonist, Rachel said. She doesn't want to win anything. She wants to watch people unravel. I felt sick. Because now, every word she'd said to me, every threat, every twist of guilt, wasn't about revenge. It was performance. And we were just the latest audience. We have to warn that guy in Boston, I said. We will. But first, we need to trap her. The plan wasn't simple and it wasn't clean. We knew she wanted legal leverage. She wanted my name on those papers. So we let her get close. I sent her a message. Let's talk. No more lawyers. Just us. One last time. Come alone. We booked a room in a neutral space. Not a home. Not a cafe. A rented co-working office downtown. Cameras installed. Audio recording wired into a secure line. Every inch controlled. She showed up in heels and a tailored coat, holding that same folder of forged documents like it was a death certificate she was waiting for me to sign. You came, she said, not surprised. Let's end this, I told her. She walked in, sat across from me, and smiled like the queen of something crumbling. I knew you'd see it my way, she said. Before I sign anything, I said, You tell me one thing. Why us? She raised an eyebrow. Because you're easy. You believe in good endings. I can smell that kind of weakness from a mile away. What about Rachel? Her smile widened, and for the first time, her voice dropped to something ugly and unfiltered. She reminds me of someone who thought she was smarter than me, someone who took something I wanted. She didn't say the name, but we didn't need it. Rachel was listening from the next room, live, and now we had her not just on threats, but motive. The final part was already in motion. The documents she handed me? Not fakes. They were real. Signed, timestamped, and wired straight to our lawyer. Only the name she used for her identity? Hannah Bellamy. We filed the claim before she left the building. Melissa was about to find out what it felt like to be declared dead. For real this time. Only now she wouldn't vanish. She'd be exposed. By the time Melissa realized what had happened, the documents were already in the hands of state authorities. Impersonating a deceased person to conduct financial and legal transactions, especially across state lines, was more than just fraud. It was identity theft, a federal offense. And because she used the name of a real individual, someone who had died under verifiable circumstances, the system kicked into high gear. She texted me 2 hours after the meeting. You think you're clever, but you've only delayed the inevitable. I always come back.
No threats. No panic.
Just that same twisted confidence. Like we were all just extras in her private drama. But this time, she wouldn't be the one writing the script. That same night, Rachel and I went to the police with our evidence. Every photo, every message, every cross-reference of fake names and assumed identities. We included the names of the other couples, the matching surveillance patterns, and, most importantly, the recording of her confession from the office. The detectives listened, scribbled notes, asked us to go over timelines 3 times. When they heard the part about Hannah Bellamy, one of them went quiet and left the room. He returned 10 minutes later with another man in a gray suit who said he was with a task force out of D.C. That's when everything shifted. Melissa hadn't just fooled me. She'd been under multiple identities across multiple states for over a decade, connected to psychological breakdowns, disappearances, and civil settlements that never made the press. No one had connected the dots because she'd always slipped away before the debris settled. Until now. We've been looking for her, the agent said. She uses grief as a weapon. She identifies unstable marriages, injects herself into the dynamic, and pushes the fracture until something breaks. Then she vanishes, always with a new name, a new angle. So what happens next? I asked. We're not charging her yet, he said, but we're watching closely. If she tries to use that identity again, even to buy groceries, she'll trip a wire. I nodded, unsure whether to feel relieved or exhausted. Rachel, however, wasn't done. She still has the boy, she said. Everyone in the room looked at her. She said he's Jason's son, she continued. We want a new test. One that isn't handled by someone who stole a toothbrush and ran it through her personal science project. The agent agreed. They arranged for a court-mandated test, one with a chain of custody and official results. We'd have them in a week. That night, Rachel and I didn't celebrate. We didn't talk much at all. We just sat in the quiet, staring at a chessboard between us, neither of us making a move. Because the war wasn't over. We'd exposed her game, yes. But until we knew the truth about that child, whether he was part of her con, or the only real thing she'd ever carried into our lives, we were still standing on a blade. And Melissa, wherever she was probably already planning her next move. The calm before the storm. Again. The test results arrived exactly 8 days later, delivered by a court officer with a sealed envelope. He handed it to me without a word, like it was a sentence instead of paper. I sat on the porch for over an hour before opening it. Rachel didn't push. She just sat beside me, watching the wind move through the trees like it might bring better news. Inside, the results were typed neatly, scientifically cold. Probability of paternity 0%. The boy wasn't mine. Everything else, the threats, the manipulation, the folder of surveillance, the forged documents, it had all been layered atop one massive lie. A single, foundational untruth that shattered every fragment of guilt she tried to pin on me. Melissa had created a fantasy and expected me to carry it. And now it was broken. Still, there was no relief. Not immediately. just a hollow ache where uncertainty had lived for weeks. I thought about the boy, Aaron, or whatever his real name was. Thought about how he'd stared at my car that first day, never looking at me, never speaking. Did he even know what he was being used for? Or was he just a prop in someone else's production? Rachel and I took the report to the authorities. They accepted it, updated the file, and added another layer to Melissa's growing portfolio of manipulation. But she had already gone underground again. The house was abandoned 3 days after our last meeting. No forwarding address.
No trace.
The only thing left behind, a single photo of Rachel, taken from behind, printed and taped to the fridge. It was dated 2 years ago. Melissa had been watching us long before she returned. She was never here for me, I said aloud. Rachel nodded, eyes cold. She wanted me to fall apart. She hadn't tried to destroy me because she still loved me. She tried to destroy me because I'd rebuilt something stronger. She'd seen Rachel. Saw someone who didn't flinch, didn't fade, didn't crumble in silence. Melissa didn't want me back. She wanted Rachel gone. And when that didn't work, she tried to erase us both by rewriting our story into her tragedy. But now, with the truth documented and Melissa exposed, something shifted. People started believing us. Authorities began compiling a federal case. A warrant was issued for multiple charges: fraud, impersonation, identity theft, and child endangerment. Her aliases were submitted to national watch lists. Old cases reopened. One by one, victims she'd left in emotional wreckage started surfacing. The man in Boston, a couple in Oregon, a woman from Arizona who'd once found Melissa pretending to be her therapist. She'd done this before, too many times. But now she wasn't just a ghost with stories. She was a name on a list, a face on a file. Rachel and I didn't feel victorious. Not really. The damage had been done. Our lives were still tangled in a web of paranoia, loose ends, and sleepless nights. But for the first time in weeks, we could breathe. She's out there, Rachel said one night. Still watching. Still planning. Maybe, I said. But next time we won't just be ready. We'll be waiting. We didn't know when she'd show herself again. But when she did, she wouldn't find the same man she once left behind. And Rachel? She'd be the one holding the match point 6 weeks past. No calls. No letters. No strange packages or photos slipped under doors. Melissa vanished as suddenly as she'd appeared, leaving behind the kind of silence that doesn't comfort. It taunts. Every quiet moment felt like a breath being held by something too patient. The federal case grew. More names. More victims. A pattern carved across states and years. Each stop another identity. Another fracture. Another burned-down life. But they still hadn't found her. She was slippery. Better than they expected. Her ability to disappear wasn't supernatural, it was practiced. She knew when to run, and how to blend in. Rachel and I didn't wait for peace to return. We created it. We sold the house. Moved 3 cities over. New neighborhood, new numbers, new locks on every door. Rachel quit her job and started a private consultancy, working only with vetted, high-security clients. I did the same. Smaller circle. Tighter lines. No more posts. No digital trail. But some nights I still thought I saw her. A shadow too still. A face in a crowd that lingered 1 beat too long. Then one morning I got a letter. No return address. Handwritten. No name inside. There's no such thing as moving on. You just build over the bones and hope the foundation doesn't crack again. You chose the wrong side of the mirror. I'll be watching. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder that she hadn't lost. Not really. Because Melissa didn't need to stay in our lives to haunt them. She just needed us to remember. And we would. Every time the door creaked at night. Every time the security camera blinked. Every time a friend stopped calling without reason. But here's the truth I finally understood. Melissa was broken before I ever met her. She didn't come back from the dead. She brought death with her. Not in violence, but in slow erosion. In the unraveling of trust, the corrosion of normalcy, the dismantling of identity. But she didn't win. Because even if she made us bleed, she didn't get what she wanted. Obedience. Collapse. Control. Rachel and I stood side by side in the ruins and built again. Not because we weren't afraid, but because we knew now that fear isn't something to escape, it's something to confront. If you're reading this and you're in something that feels twisted, manipulated, blurred by guilt and games you never agreed to play, listen carefully. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're being hunted. And the sooner you stop trying to reason with the monster and start documenting, digging, and building your escape, the better your chances of not ending up as another forgotten chapter in someone else's twisted biography. Melissa will probably surface again. Somewhere. Some poor soul will meet her, believe her, maybe even fall for her. But if she ever comes back here, we're not running. We've already buried her once. Next time, we won't use a shovel. We'll use the truth.